While I was there, I was in Cub Scouts, and one of the boys in my Cub Scout pack's name was Arthur MacArthur, General MacArthur's son. So I got to know his son and Mrs. MacArthur very well. They were very nice.
Yeah.
And then there also, when I was there was a Japanese boy who had was learning, where his parents wanted to learn about the Americans, so they hired an American tutor by the name of Elizabeth Gray Viney to teach him. And she said, well, the best way to find out the Americans is interface with some American boys about his age. Well, I was one of four selected to be with him. His current job, he's the Emperor Akihito, or Emperor of Japan.
Oh, wow.
So he's very, so I've got to meet a lot of people. Different things in life, you just never know who you're going to meet. Closing the windows, putting blackout curtains on, because there was a fear that the Japanese might attack San Diego because it was a military headquarters for the Navy and the Marine. Why we had to keep the things out. Because I had a sister 2 years older, a sister 2 years younger, and she was concerned that we might get in trouble if we opened one of the windows or something like that, took the things out, and the local people found out. I took the voluntary draft after I came out of high school. I spent 2 years in active duty, of which 16 months of it was in Korea. And then I went into the reserves, and I stayed with the reserve for another 38 years. I'm a retired Army Sergeant Major. Well, yes, because the day shortly after I arrived in Korea, we were in the what we call a reserve division. And the day that we got there, they took us all into a kind of auditorium, and the commanding general, Major General Char, talked to us. And then when he got through talking, General, he said, now I want everybody but those that are going to artillery units to step outside, find their respective guidons, and report to the NCO. The other of you that are going to artillery, stand fast. And all of a sudden, he got 8 chairs plus one for himself in a circle. Well, having grown up around the Army, I hadn't seen that before, where the general sat down with basically recruits. And he told us that the reason we weren't going outside is because we were being assigned to the division's artillery, which was on the DMZ, was unleashed to the division that was on the DMZ. So we're going up there. And he says, your job, if the communists come across the border again, your job is to delay them until we can set up the main line of defense north of Seoul. But in any way, your units will suffer total annihilation in the first hour. I'm a 19-year-old kid, and this guy telling me that at best I got an hour to live, until I was 2 weeks from coming home. And all of a sudden, all of the alarms went off, and I had already turned in my field gear, as you turn it in, and if they went out in the field, you just pulled guard duty back on base. And so I'm laying in the bed, everybody's getting their stuff ready, and the first sergeant comes in, he says, Mason, what are you doing in your bed? I said, well, I'm just waiting for you guys to go so I can pull guard duty. No, you're going with us. I don't have field gear. Go draw your field gear. Now that was another thing. That hadn't done that. Then up on the hill, we had a warehouse, and in the warehouse we had warheads, atomic warheads, artillery. And all of a sudden I looked up on the hill, and they're loading the trucks up with warheads. I thought, we are at war, and where are they coming from? Type of situation. We drew our weapons and ammunition, everything, which you didn't normally do when you went out in the field with others. And so we went out in the field, and they told us, well, dig here at Foxhole. Okay, no, not what we used to do, throw a couple of spades of dirt and say that's a foxhole. Dig a real foxhole. And we were out there for about 3 days, and finally they came back and said, all right, we're returning to our unit. This is when the Marines got involved with the things in Lebanon in 1958, and they thought that would be the communist open door to come across the border. I marveled at how the Koreans had developed. They had paved highways. They were all dirt when I was there. They built all along the Han River, which splits the city of Seoul. You got 40, 50-story buildings, apartment buildings. I never had any of that, so it was an entirely different environment from what I experienced before. When I came home from active duty, I started school at UCLA. And in March of 1960, I was crossing campus to go from another class. And this man approached me, put his hand out, shook my hand. He says, "I'm running for president. I'd appreciate your vote." John F. Kennedy. And through the course of different things in my life, I met Ronald Reagan. I met Barbara Bush, the senior Bush's wife, and I did luncheon one day, and things like that. So you just don't know who you're going to meet and what they're going to be in the future. I sat down and I started thinking, if I'd only done this, I'd only done that. When I first started to get out, graduate from high school, my desire was to attend West Point. And I worked at the gas station while I was in high school. And one of my customers worked for a congressman. And he told me he would get the congressman to give me an appointment. Well, then about a month before the appointments were announced, he told me, "I'm sorry, somebody who was a contributor to the congressman's campaign got the appointment for his son." And so I was ticked off, and I always thought, if I'd only gone to West Point. But you know, if you stop and think about, what if I'd done something differently? Look at all the things that you have now that you enjoy, you wouldn't have. I would never have met my wife. I wouldn't have my daughters or my grandchildren. So I don't like to go back and think, what if I'd done this? It doesn't, no point in it, because that would change so many things that I enjoy and I like, and I don't want to do that. So I just live and I enjoy what I have, and I've been blessed. I'm a happy man, happy. Everything else has got its pros and cons, but the pros are far outweigh the cons in my life, and I really enjoyed life. Now we've been blessed. We've traveled. We've been in 6 of the 7 continents. The only one we haven't gone to is Antarctica. We've been in 34 different countries. We went with a church in 1983 to Israel and toured throughout Israel. Do I have a bucket list? Yeah, to live until the Lord calls me home without suffering pain. See, I believe, my belief is the Lord has our date. But we can do things in the interim because it sells harm and pain. But I'm blessed, I'm in good health.